May I have roll call, please?
Mr. Durkin?
Present.
Mr. Keller?
Here.
Mrs. McLean?
Present.
Mr. Schneider?
Here.
And Mr. Sharp is absent tonight. Dr. Smith?
Here.
And Mrs. Weinberg.
Present. Please stand, join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we know who our true loyal participants are. Thank you for being here. Glad to have you here tonight. Mr. Lee, welcome. Glad to have you here tonight as well. You have before you the minutes of the previous meeting on May 15th. It was a regular meeting.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Any questions, comments, corrections? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Durkin?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mrs. McLean? Mr. Schneider?
Aye.
Dr. Smith? Mrs. Weinberg.
Aye. You have before you an agenda. Do you have a table file, electronic updates or additions included? Under action items, the consideration of approved handbooks, the Fort Morgan Middle School handbook has been added to the approval item. So if you don't see it there, go ahead and refresh your browser and it should appear. I am prepared to receive a motion on the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions, comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Durkin?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mrs. McLean?
Aye.
Mr. Schneider?
Aye.
Dr. Smith?
Aye.
Mrs. Weinberg.
Aye. Under special presentations, we have Ms. Nancy Hopper here with us this evening to talk about access testing. You should have the score sheet in front of you.
Well, it didn't take a minute. Check that connection at the bottom. Oh, right here.
This is
Yay.
Did it go? There it is. All right. Well, I'm here today, and thank you for inviting me to give you some information about the access test. I thought I'd start out with a little bit of history of what access is, and then kind of go into where we are currently and what our data is looking like as far as our history. So access is assessing comprehension and communication in English state to state. So that's the acronym spelled out. I have notes up here, but I don't have notes up here now, so I think I can. The purpose is to monitor students and how they're acquiring the English language and making sure that they're proficient. They do that on an annual basis. We do that in February. When those kids meet that proficiency, we exit them. The information that we get back from the test tells us how they're performing in the classroom and what information we can use from that to group kids or provide direct instruction based on the results of that assessment. And so it is pretty vital information for us as far as scheduling and providing services. Access tests 4 domains of language, which is the listening and speaking, reading and writing, and then they put out 4 composite scores. So the composite scores are what you see on the left column, the oral language, literacy, comprehension, and then the overall score. When we're looking at redesignating students to FEP, which is fluent English proficiency, the triggers that we start with, we get those results back, are literacy, which you can see is 50% reading, 50% writing, and the overall score, which is encompassing some portion of all of those domains. If they don't meet criteria in literacy and overall with certain
I'm sorry, I missed the percentage. Was there a certain percentage you said that was?
Well, what they look is, when we're ready to redesignate, we have cut points, criteria that the state has set, and then the two that they start with are literacy and then the overall. And if they don't meet the cut point in those two columns, we don't even look at the other sections. So we look at it as far as providing support and instruction, but to redesignate, they have to have a certain cut point.
Thank you.
So we're kind of in a unique situation that in 15-16, the WIDA decided to revamp and recalibrate their system. So we went on to an online platform for grades 1 through 12. Kindergarten remains a paper pencil test, but because they went to the online, the scores that came out in 16 were online scores, but they were grading them based on the paper pencil assessment. So we really couldn't use those as valid and reliable scores. And so in as much we were not able to use those for school growth measures. So that was in the year 16. In the year 17, we're still in the same place because when they analyzed and did their thorough looking into the computer section now, speaking, the scores on speaking for whatever reason had a significant drop. They also wanted to make sure that the test is aligned to address the college and readiness for readiness skills, and then shipping those to language demands. So they decided they needed to do cut points. Again, then we're not able to use this year any of those scores for growth measures. We can use them internally, but we can't use them to measure growth. Last year's were not valid. This year's are valid, but not to measure growth, but the scores are valid. So here's kind of the redesignation. If you look at the column, this is supposed to be. I pushed this button and I'm nervous there for a minute.
Oh, my fault, I forgot to.
So the 2015 column, you can see that the 20,297 students are what we have designated based on the old criteria and information based on that test that was given. That would have been eligible for redesignation to a FEP status. They have the grade levels broken down. If you look at the 2016 column, the same thing. So those numbers kind of stay consistent with the kiddos. Interesting to point out, if you look at the 6-8 band across, we have seen for many years that fewer kids in the middle school are getting redesignated. So we knew that with the old paper pencil test, something was kind of wacky because the middle school kids were always kind of getting hung up in that section and not getting redesignated for whatever reason. So when they decided to readdress the rigor and the literacy demands and with the online testing format, they knew they also had to do something about the middle school section. So the State Department has been getting together with the LE directors. We've been looking at recalibrating those cut points and proficiency levels. What does it mean to be proficient? Looking at the speaking that was the most impacted, the listening was not as impacted as the other ones, and then again, looking at middle school. We knew that, in the next slide I'm going to show you, the proficiency levels, if we left them calibrated based on the old cut points, it was going to have a drastic impact. For example, we would have 17,000 fewer students being able to be redesignated. So we knew that there was a huge misalignment. So that's the work that the state has been working on, and they just let us know Friday what they came out with. So we were not able to redesignate any of our students. We could have done it kind of based on what we thought we would be heading to. I've known for a couple of weeks what the cut points were going to be, but knowing we're working with the State Department and they could change, we were not going to publish those internally until we had it in paper. So with the new criteria that came out, there are 23,635 kids, and we're looking at, based on what the state knows about those scores, you can see there'll be a fewer kids at high school level than K-5 being redesignated, but we really address the middle school issue. So we think we have a better tool moving forward with this calibration. Don't know if you've ever seen a parent report, but the parents will, this is the report they get. So you see the 4 domains in color on the left-hand side, And then the composite scores below that, the oral language, literacy, comprehension, and overall. Remember I said literacy and overall, those are the cut points. And they have to be a 4.0 to even start looking at whether or not a student would be designated. So this is what the parent gets, kind of indicating to them where their student is. In addition to that, they also get this document. So if I'm at a listening at a proficiency level of 4, it kind of gives information about what their child should be expected to do. It gives them some guidelines about what they should be seeing them able to do as well. And you can get a whole document that spells out proficiency levels 1 through 6 and all of the domains, what we would expect of a kiddo. So buildings give a student roster. This is an example. You'll see on this one, all the students would be listed on the left-hand side with their domains across the top, listening, speaking, reading, and writing, and then their composite scores. Again, I'm looking at literacy, which is, I guess I'm going to myself, literacy here and overall score here. We look to see if there's a 4.0 in this column and if there's a 4.0 in this column. And if those two have 4.0s, then we can start having a discussion about whether or not that kiddo would move forward. Building administrators get this so they know how all of their students are scoring, as well as the ELL teachers, so they can start having those conversations. Building administrators also get this form, so you'll see the proficiency levels, that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down there. This clusters the kids that when in a building into where they're at. Again, buildings can use this information for scheduling of services. We've got so many, if I look at oral language, I've got 39% of 7 kids in the developing stage. And I decide what are those kids in my cluster and what kind of service they need compared to the kiddo down here in the PD. Here, it's going to be very similar. But if I kind of go in this area, these are what we call net kids, non-human proficiency, so these kids in these areas are going to need much more intense services. So just looking at the frequency report of a building can tell where their kids are kind of clustered. So where are we now? So we're going to, instead of, we did redesignate this spring, waiting for those cut points. We have those now, but we're going to convene, I'll meet with all the ELL teachers involved in August, go over what the new cut points are and how we're going to determine. I've already outlined, sent to all building administrators what kids I think we're going to be designating. I've created a new designation handbook going with the ELL teachers just for two purposes. One, we have some new ELL teachers coming on board, and as the person coming into this position, you would not have that overall tool to use. I thought that would be very, very beneficial for new staff as well as existing staff and administrators kind of all in that same loop. We are going to create language assessment teams so that the team is looking at those students as we move forward, whether or not they think that criteria. Remember, we're going down those areas is just a trigger to start looking. There has to be other evidence to support, like your CMAS or PARCC scores or DIBELS, or there's a variety of tools that we can use. And this fall, starting this spring, any of our net kids all have a plan of where they're currently, where they ended in the year, and what services or supports they need as we move into next year. So all of our AP kids have that plan started. In the fall, teachers will look at that plan, where they were at, and develop goals. And those goals become fluid if they've met a particular goal. And what we're doing is trying to track and move them over from one proficiency level to the next.
Does this only occur annually?
Pardon?
Does the redesignation only occur annually?
When and typically we do it, like I said, now in spring, but we date that August 1, like 2017, because CDE equals the data. And the kid has to be one classification for the year. So we'll do it in August and just backdate 81. So here's the criteria for the state, 4.0 literacy and 4.0 overall, as I said. So that triggers, and then we have to have an additional piece of data locally for reading to demonstrate their reading competency as well as their writing. And it can be in context of other areas. It doesn't have to be a writing study that I did in a writing class and so forth. And so they've got 3 pathways but this is the first one. If you remember, I said that our speaking scores on the new test were kind of wacky, so they created a second pathway that if I had a 4.0 in literacy, which is reading and writing, but my overall was like 3.7, I could look at that, go back to the speaking domain, and if that was the part that really made the overall low, we're going to accommodate that by giving a speaking test, that we have some local norm tests that we can give to validate that they really should be redesignated. So we're not going to hinder them based on that particular area. I'm going fast if you have any more questions. Again, we tested 787 students. 778 of those take the regular access 2.0. 9 students take the alternate access. So that's how we got to 787. And again, the breakdown is as far as what's tested in the percentages in each area. If you look at it by grade, these are the amount of students that were tested by grade. You can see that in kindergarten we have a lot of kiddos coming in that are tested, trying to determine where they're at and giving them those supports. So again, my numbers there about how many were tested. This is, so those triggers we looked at, this is by building. Sherman kindergarten kids, once they're identified, they are not redesignated until first grade. So if you go in as a kindergarten student, we wait to redesignate until data coming from first grade. They'll take the kindergarten access test, they'll take the first grade access test, and then we redesignate. So these are by building, the amount of kids that we hit that first trigger. And so based on that, I am anticipating that we'll have 149 redesignations, give or take. And so that gives us about 19% district-wide, which is right in line with what the state, if you remember back some of those other percentages, so we're right in line with what the state usually has as far as redesignations. We have 135 kids that were FEP, so they're fluent English proficiency. We're monitoring them. You can see them broken down by grade levels as well. We typically monitor those kids for 2 years, so we have monitor 1, monitor 2. They don't receive any direct services, but we keep tabs on them just to make sure that they're not skipping or slowing down or struggling or having any kind of issue. With ESSA rolling out this July, ESSA is stipulating that we will now monitor kids for 4 years. It won't be called 4 years of monitoring. It will be monitor 1, monitor 2, exit 1, exit 2. But we will keep them in the system as far as looking and reviewing how they're doing. So right now we have 135. This is based on the old data. When we redesignated in the fall, that number 135 will change based on the amount of kids that we move into redesignating, based on some of these kids that move out. It's constantly evolving because of the in and out of our schools, the mobility. So we have 923 students that are either NEP, LEP, or FEP. Either in some of that category. We only test with access, NEP, and LEP. FEP kids are not given the access test. Once they move to FEP, they are no longer assessed. They only move back into that if we see that they're struggling and they need that support again. Do we move them back into a LEP status? But that, again, is a team decision based on a body of evidence. And I thought just for kicks and giggles here, we would look at the amount of kiddos that we have are different languages. And so you can see the English language, we have 1,958 kiddos speaking English. And the little code behind it is because when I pulled this up, I was getting codes and it didn't, I had no idea what that really meant. So I got into the system and I found the State Department's code designation sheet to really get an idea of all the different kids we have in the languages. So we've got quite a few. And so that's all I have, unless you have any questions for me. I'll entertain those, but I'm really proud of our ELL teachers and the work they do. Keep in mind that kids are moving in and out constantly during the year, so it's hard to have a classroom and provide services when they come in January, and just like any other kiddos. So.
Nancy, why is there an alternate access? What does that mean?
Alternate access is for those kiddos who are ELL, but also have a cognitive delay. And so they are special ed students that meet the criteria for taking an alternate assessment.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Nancy. Great information.
Thank you.
A lot of different languages. Always amazes me. We do have opportunity for audience. If there's anybody who would like to say anything to the board, now is your chance. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the reports. First, board reports, I do have an announcement. Morgan County School District is now offering school board meetings via online streaming. And we'll continue to store these meetings for later viewing, so start dressing up. So the district has... Yeah, exactly. So the district has acquired a YouTube page that will allow the storage of these meetings for 90 days. This will allow anyone with internet access to be able to watch the meetings. I know we do have a handful of people who do watch them on television, because I usually hear about it afterwards from at least one or two. But this is an advancement over the past system, which only Charter TV customers could watch. So we're making this more readily available to the community. The link is currently on the district main webpage and will be transferred in the near future to the board page on the new website that will appear in the next couple of months, which we're excited about. So, so pretty exciting. I mean, I know we started this with graduation, and it went over really well. It was a great opportunity for folks who were not able to make it for graduation to see it. And I hope the same thing will happen here, that I hope we'll have more of an audience at our meetings. Although I would like to say that we always welcome people here in the audience. So, love to have those faces here in person. Any other board reports? No? If not, Mr. Eccles, what do you have for us?
Yeah, the live streaming kind of out of sometimes challenges come great opportunities, and that's what
Yes.
happened out of graduation. Now, whether this is a great opportunity, I guess we yet to be determined,
Yeah.
but it is an opportunity, so we'll try that out. I updated the board on a lot of information recently, and I just want to touch base on one thing in particular, the strategic planning update, and there's a lot of information. I just gave you kind of encapsulated form, but again, we met this past week with all our administration team and with Randy, and Randy's doing much better. And Mary Ellen went over a lot of data and survey information we had done in the past. And really, we thought there's so much information. We have such a large group, probably 20 plus people to work with. So we really thought out of the 4 goals that we're really focusing on, and I sent you some of that information. I'll send you some more updated information tomorrow. That would be better to break our large number into 4 teams, if you will, each team taking a specific goal or objective for our district, and then developing that, the different areas that I outlined for the board earlier tonight, and then we'll come together again and share ideas and concepts moving forward, and then present it to the board. Again, because of contract time, most of this work will be done as team and groups, after we come back in the into the summer. And again, if any board members are interested in serving in one of those goal areas in particular, please let me know, and we'll make sure you get an invite. For sometimes you'll be able to come, sometimes if you can't, but if you have any interest in that, and again, the 4 main goal areas we're looking at again is, and I'll send this material out to you tomorrow, would be that, of course, our main emphasis is always developed around high student achievement, regarding safe learning environments, organizational effectiveness, and relationships. So those will be our 4 key goals and areas that we'll be focusing on with our teams, and again, we'll obviously keep the board updated and as we progress through the information through our planning process. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Flug.
Don't have a lot to share. I would point out, once again, as usual, your personnel report is in the packet, and you can see that we're continuing to work to fill our open positions for next year. We're having some success. We're still having difficulties finding a few, but we're plugging away at that, so far so good.
Okay.
Questions for me?
Have the resignations fairly, I shouldn't ask, stabilized?
They have, and we're knocking on wood and hoping that we'll see more.
Okay.
But you never know.
You never know. Thank you. Mr. Lee, welcome. Would you like to tell us about the finances?
You have the April financial report, pretty self-explanatory. Just noted we actually had a surplus for the month of April, had a pretty good property tax collection, about $750,000, which brought us to a monthly surplus of $257,000. That brings our deficit down through April to $1.1 million, and we'll see some pretty good collections. Not so much in May, but we'll see another big jump in June, and then we're hoping that's going to pull our deficit down to more in line with what we projected for our budget number for 2016-17. Everything else is pretty straightforward for the months, unless there's any specific questions. The other thing, just as a brief comment, we've done 2 open enrollment meetings on our health insurance, one last week, one this morning, have the final third one tomorrow morning. Had about 25 people a session. It's lasted a little over 2 hours. It's kind of an overview of the plan, some of our proposed changes. And had a lot of good questions, a little bit of confusion on HRA, HSA, Tier 1, Tier 2, FSAs, all that kind of fun stuff. But I think people are, there's a participant from this morning's meeting sitting in the audience. She can maybe better describe if it was valuable or more informative or not. But had a few email questions, and I'm sending out some frequently asked questions, email responses. So far, so good.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Wood? Okay. Get off easy. Do you have anything for us?
Not tonight.
Okay. You do have before you discussion items, policies first reading. I know we weren't able to see them earlier, but they're now, get a chance to read through. EFE1, school meal payments. Next is civil rights complaint procedure for the school nutrition program. And then this EF school nutrition program, EFC, free reduced price food services, EFEA, nutritious food choices, and EFEA-E, healthy beverage standards for schools. So the ones that are recommended for first reading are recommended by CASB, and some of those are required by law. I would imagine some of those healthy ones are probably required by law.
They are, and there's a lot of choices that we still need to make in those policies. We have a lot of different options available, and so we haven't really sat down long enough yet to figure that out, but by the next reading, we will have those
Thank you.
in a more final form for you.
Okay, sounds good. You also have before you policy secondary, ADF, school wellness, ADF-R, school wellness, IKF, graduation requirements, and IKF-2 graduation. I guess I'll just statement there was about the first policy, first reading. Any changes from the first reading?
No changes on those. We are meeting tomorrow, actually. We were able to get a meeting in before this board meeting to really go over those graduation requirements, and principals will be here, and we'll be discussing exactly what that's going to look like for Lincoln and for Foreman High School. So on the third reading, those will be in a final form for you.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Okay, you have before you consent agenda, which includes personnel actions, claims and accounts.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Any questions? Comments, corrections? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Durkin?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mrs. McLean?
Aye.
Mr. Schneider?
Aye.
Dr. Smith?
Aye.
Mrs. Weingarten?
Aye. Welcome. You also have before you then action items. We have consideration to approve policies upon third reading. Policy DAC, federal fiscal compliance, DJ/DJA, purchasing authority, DJB, federal procurement, DJB-R, federal procurement, DJE, bid procedures, and DKC, expense authorization reimbursement.
listed policies on third reading.
Second.
Were there any changes since the second reading?
There were no changes.
Any questions or discussion? No? Roll call, please.
Mr. Durkin?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mrs. McLean?
Aye.
Mr. Schneider?
Aye.
Dr. Smith?
Aye.
Mrs. Weingarten?
Aye. Next action item B, consideration to approve Fort Morgan Middle School volleyball donation. You do have a letter before you. Fort Morgan
Move to
volleyball.
approve. Second.
Any questions? This is once again generous that they, the Fort Morgan volleyball group, they do this annually, giving money back to the volleyball program for using the facilities. I think it goes back and forth between the high school, or is it always?
They usually do both buildings,
Both
depending
buildings.
on how many tournaments they have at each building.
Gotcha. So, very generous, so thanks, and if no further questions, then roll call, please.
Mr. Durkin?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mrs. McLean?
Aye.
Mr. Schneider?
Aye.
Dr. Smith?
Aye.
Mrs. Weingarten?
Aye. Action item C, consideration to approve Lincoln High School graduation date change. They are requesting a change to their date in 2008, so it doesn't interfere with that at high school.
Move to approve. I'll second.
Any questions or comments? I think it's pretty straightforward. Roll call, please.
Mr. Durkin?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mrs. McLean?
Aye.
Mr. Schneider?
Aye.
Dr. Smith?
Aye.
Mrs. Weingarten?
Aye. Action item D, consideration to approve the CU summer experience for Fort Morgan High School students. It's a 2-week stay at University of Colorado Boulder in the month of July. What would you like to proceed?
Move we approve.
Second.
Any questions? Somebody knows something about the program? Would you mind sharing a little more with us?
Sure. Working with CU Boulder and Garrett program, they came out and they offer this to several different districts around the state. That's a really great opportunity for our students. It's no cost to them. They get to stay in the dorms. They have academic, gosh, they start at 8. They go 8 to 3, I think. Every day they do some fun stuff with them. The weekend that they stay there, because they leave on a Sunday and they get back following Friday. But that weekend that they're there, they are taking them to eat lunches on a Saturday, I think. But it's a pretty academically rigorous opportunity for the students, but just kind of get them acquainted with college. One of the high school science teachers is actually going to teach a science class there. But it's going to, it's a really great opportunity for the kids, and they're supervised. They have some college Europe students that are like the resident assistants coming to help them, but then adults are always around as well. It's a really cool opportunity for our students.
What grade level are they?
They're juniors, going to be seniors.
Going to be seniors.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Durkin?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Abstain, conflict of interest.
Mrs. McLean?
Aye.
Mr. Schneider?
Aye.
Dr. Smith?
Aye.
Mrs. Weingarten?
Aye. Motion carries. Action item E, consideration to approve handbooks. We have memos from Lincoln High School, Gifted Talented, and Fort Morgan Middle School. And then the handbooks as well.
Move that we approve the handbooks.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Durkin?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mrs. McLean?
Aye.
Mr. Schneider?
Aye.
Dr. Smith?
Aye.
Mrs. Weingarten?
Aye. Action item F, consideration to approve donations, the water filling stations at Pioneer, Baker, and Fort Morgan High School. So there's donation letters in your packet.
Move we approve the donations to the water filling stations.
I'll second.
Any questions? I'm curious how this came about, and who requested the grant?
where it came about. The excitement came about, we started remodeling our elementary schools, and we were fortunate that there's this nice, I call them still drinking fountains, but they're really drinking fountains that allow people to fill water bottles, our students as well as the teachers, and they're extremely popular. And I think most healthy people tell you they're a healthier way to go, and opportunity, and generally they're refrigerated, so it's cold water also. So that the kind of popularity and your working with Valley, she was able to give us some grant money, some consideration to go to the health department. And we're continuing that process because now we're very popular, and high school wants a lot of them, and other buildings want to increase that opportunity. So we're looking to part of the health grant to try to get some more funds to install more of it. If any of us over in elementary school, they're very popular.
No, I think it's a terrific idea, I just wasn't sure who kind of wanted it.
There's some expense to it, not just initial cost, but also there's cleaning filters and garbage and stuff cost. But the long run is a much better situation for our teachers and our staff. And part of it was we gave up, when we remodeled elementary school, we gave up some of the in classroom drinking fountains. So when we replaced those, we got these nice water stations that are quite popular.
Sounds good. Well, no further questions, roll call, please.
Mr. Gergen?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mrs. McLean?
Should I abstain since it's not, I didn't have to abstain? All right, so aye.
Mr. Schneider?
Aye.
Dr. Smith?
Aye.
Mrs. Weiner?
Aye. Action item G, consideration to approve the wellness grant application, which you have before you, as well as the budget narrative.
Motion to approve, please. Second.
Any questions regarding this? Any others say any more information?
Actually, this grant is one of the shortest grants I think we've written for $102,000. But again, we've been working with Ally Howe, the four elementary principals, and then Ms. Holsworth, so we've met several times. The primary purpose of this grant, as you've read, is really the planning phase. So to really look at just whole child, whole community, and just overall wellness, and to make sure that we are really developing some community stakeholders and thinking through what different buildings need before we go for an implementation grant, which would be after this next year. So they've got a lot of great ideas about building wellness teams and wellness leaders at buildings, and just building capacity from within to make sure that those buildings just move forward in the best way possible for wellness. So.
Very exciting things. Regarding wellness. No further questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Gergen?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mrs. McLean?
Aye.
Mr. Schneider?
Aye.
Dr. Smith?
Aye.
Mrs. Weiner?
Aye. And last, action item H, consideration to approve Board of Education meeting date revision. We'll be meeting from Friday, June 30th to Thursday, June 29th. Recognizing that under the justification it stays 1 week, but we really should know 1 day. Okay.
Well, no, for me, it doesn't work.
Doesn't for me either.
Still have to motion to approve to vote, all right?
Yes, you still need to vote again. Mhm.
I'll second.
So the date change does not work for me. I'll actually be in Sterling at 8 o'clock and all day that Thursday. Although Trish, you are not available at all.
So June 30th is Friday.
It's a Friday. It's a Friday. We typically done on last day. Give Mr. Duke as much time as possible to prepare for us. Any other questions or comments about that? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Gergen?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Nay.
Mrs. McLean?
Nay.
Mr. Schneider?
Nay.
Dr. Smith?
Nay.
And Mrs. Weingarten.
Nay. So motion does not carry. So we will continue with our meeting as planned on June 30th. We also have before you information items, monthly reports from Sherman, Columbine, 2 from Columbine, and Fort Morgan High School, newsletters from the after-school daycare, Sherman and Baker, as well as thank you note we cannot open.
No.
Just so you know, we cannot open the thank you note.
Oh.
Okay, but it's acknowledged, so maybe you could tell us. What's from a little pass it or
What's it?
pass it or read it. Or
It was from a staff member thanking the board for the staff appreciation gift.
okay, that's very nice. Okay, well, thank you. As far as advanced planning, that our next regular meeting is here at the District Support Center on June 19th. And then we do have an executive session this morning to, this evening, what did I say? It's been a, yeah.
It's a long day.
It's been a really long day. It's been on a Monday, regarding purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, or sale of any real, personal, or other property, CRS 24-6-402, parentheses 4, parentheses A. I'd like to invite Mr. Eccles, Mr. Lee, Mr. Flute, and Mrs. Temple to attend the executive session. So do we have a motion to,
I move we approve the executive session as stated for the purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, or sale of any real, personal, or other property. And I would like to invite Mr. Eccles, Mr. Lee, Mr. Flue, and Mrs. Temple to attend.
Second.
okay, any questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Gergen.
Aye.
Mr. Keller.
Aye.
Mrs. McLean.
Aye.
Ms. Schneider.
Aye.
Dr. Smith.
Aye.
And Mrs. Weingarten.
Aye. So now we'll have 90 days for my mistakes to be out. To be out.
We doing that in here?
No, I think we'll go.